Hello, isolation, 1ceolation, and welcome to Play Game Fast. You're not a Google speedrunner, which is something we don't usually have on here.
Yeah,
And
so for context, I speedrun Hat in Time. It's kind of like a 3D platformer, almost akin to like Mario Sunshine or like Banjo-Kazooie. And I'm primarily focused on any percent and ILs and whatnot in that game, and it's a lot of fun, so check it out.
yeah, I was just about to ask that. Good that we got it out of the way. I know that maybe one or two people in my audience have played it. Not too sure about most others. And hopping right into it. Apparently, you're the most recent runner for the sub 40-minute barrier in the any percent category. I'd love
Yeah.
hearing speedrun stories. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay, so yeah, that's a fun one because sub 40 is kind of like the big entry barrier into like almost top level, where you're like, oh wow, I'm like suddenly really close to sub 40 and hitting that barrier and whatever. And a lot of people, it's a massive mental block and whatever, just because, it's almost intimidating. For me, I don't know. It's actually 38 that was way more of a mental block for me than 39, which I found really weird. Like I just kind of got 39 after like, I want to say, because yeah, I had like a little like almost pop off during like April where I just like shaved off 3 minutes of my time, and then everybody was like, "Oh wow, that was surprisingly quick," because lots of people get stuck at that, but it was fun.
I can
38 though, 38 was like where it just kind of like hit me. It was almost like karma for getting 39 too quickly.
I can kind of relate to that. I remember when I first started doing runs of Champion Island, the game that most of the listeners of this podcast speedrun or are part of the community for. And when I first started, like I played around on my school computer, got a run that would be 36th place, submitted it, and then the days after that submission, I would just lower it, and it'd be really, really weird because I went from 36th to 12th to 11th, then 10th, then 8th, and today I'm fourth in that category.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah.
Obviously it's not like minutes upon minutes like Hat in Time is because Champion
Yeah.
Island, while your barrier is 40 minutes, ours is about like for the main category I'd have to say 8 minutes.
So it's like a shorter game. Yeah, those are nice. The
Yeah.
only other game I've ever like speedran is like that Super Mario 64 FPS, if you've seen that. Basically somebody decided to take Mario 64 and then
Give him a
put it in
gun.
Unreal Engine and give him a gun. It's a shorter speedrun. Actually, I think my PB in that game is pretty close to 36, which is what I'm approaching now in Hat, which is kind of funny. Because I only ran that like once, and it's a nice short game in terms of like at least what I'm used to.
Yeah. Um Speedrunning's definitely, a little longer than Champion
Yeah.
Island.
It's a little I don't think it's like a super long game though. Like if you look at other like 3D platformers, it's one of the shortest. Like I
Oh
know
yeah.
I
Well,
know Sunshine has like almost what was it, like 1 hour and like was it 13 any percent or 112? I can't remember. But
I
yeah, and then I think Super Mario 64 is like the only 3D platformer that it's like longer than in terms of like, but again, that's just because crazy skips and whatever.
yeah. 64 is one of the first 3D
Yeah.
platformers, so it obviously had a few issues that needed to be worked out.
Yeah.
I
And also
still,
like yeah, also obviously all the like the door skips for Bowser and whatnot. Like technically you can beat that game in really fast times, whereas Hat you have to collect all 26 time pieces and you can't really skip any.
I still find it hilarious that they released Nintendo decided, they like Mario 64. Let's release it not once on the Switch, but twice. And the first time's gonna be limited edition, and we'll overproduce it, and it will be the patched version of the game. They'll love that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 3D All-Stars like I played all the other 3D platformers that in the Mario franchise up until that point, but I just kind of was able. Even I saw that like this remake isn't that great. I
Uh,
think Galaxy though, Galaxy is probably. I think actually Galaxy is the one of the first like experiences I had with video games and whatever, and like that game means a lot to me. So I was glad it got released again on Switch.
well, apparently the story was that in Japan they actually patched out BLJs
Yeah, I heard
and
about that.
they never actually they obviously they didn't bring that patched version to America until the 3D All Stars.
Yeah.
And then 3D All Stars came around. People were like, "Well, what's your deal?" And then they made
Hmm.
so many copies because they're like, "People are gonna buy this because there's such a time limit." And I still see them in Target today.
Wait, do you really?
Yeah,
Damn.
there's Targets around my area that I just still see like 3D All Stars there, and I'm like, "Wow, I thought I was on such a time crunch." No, it's
I remember when Canada used to have Target. Those were the times.
I find
I say
honestly,
that despite never being in a Target. Maybe that's why it's not in Canada.
yeah, no one, none of the Canadians went there.
Mhm.
Um, I think I got through the All Stars, and the only game I actually played much of all of was Sunshine. I beat that, and then didn't touch in the other two ones that much.
Yeah, that's funny because I did that with Galaxy. I just played that one and then just didn't really touch the other ones.
I like Sunshine because its platforming feels more precise. I like that. Sunshine,
That's fair.
Celeste.
Sometimes to me Sunshine feels a little gimmicky. Like I'd go off I like the Mario franchise in terms of its platforming. But I think Hat, the reason I picked Hat mostly to speedrun just because I feel like it has the smoothest movement out of all of them. Like I wouldn't say it's a flawless game, but I'd say its movement just feels less clunky than a lot of them. Like I know with Odyssey, like the one thing because I tried to relearn Odyssey recently because that's kind of where I started like getting into the speedrunning. I never submitted runs or whatever, but Odyssey was like back in 2017 was kind of like my first exposure to it. But like recently getting back into it, I realized Odyssey has a lot of input delay, and that's a massive turnoff for me. And then Sunshine can feel pretty clunky at times. Same thing with 64. And then yeah, Galaxy's just too long. I hate long categories.
Yeah. I agree with the clunkiness. I cannot get into so many platformers that people say are amazing because I just don't like the controls.
Yeah.
I think I've played Hat 3 times over now.
Mhm.
Same with Celeste. I don't know what is with me and being like, I'm going to play this exactly 3 times and then not bother a fourth.
No, I get it. It's because I'm pretty sure I beat Odyssey 3 times. Like I still like the games casually for sure, but I just think it's
Oh yeah, that's right.
like you know
Yeah,
like
my
just not a fun for speed. Oh, and also motion controls. Forgot about that.
I the only reason I couldn't get into Galaxy was just because I really had to like get settled if I wanted to play around with motion controls, and I mostly just did it like laying on the floor with my Switch in handheld mode.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I played it on like in the dock and whatever. I know with I know with that like what was I gonna say? But I
Ah,
know with the
yes.
motion controls for like Galaxy, I'm glad they aren't overcomplicated. Like there's only one move that relies on them. Whereas Odyssey, there's like a billion different cap throws that require you to shake the controller in a specific way, and then you like slightly misinput it, and then it does another, and you know.
There's always ways. I think there's mostly ways to do it with button controls, but it's
Yeah,
also,
but
um,
it's also not great. It takes some setup too, which is
yeah,
annoying.
like the spin throw instead of just whapping your controllers to the side. It's twirl your
You have
stick
to
a bunch until
twirl
Mario
and then
decides to spin, and then press your throw button.
yeah, which you know, in terms of a speed run, having to set those up is just kind of bad.
Also, the homing thing in Odyssey, I don't think that even exists without motion controls, where you shake it
Yeah,
again
wait,
and it
yeah, no, it,
snaps,
yeah, that, yeah, I don't think it does.
which is very
Yeah,
not
I,
that awesome.
I think like the nice thing about Hat is it took a lot of my critiques with Odyssey's like core gameplay and kind of like fixed them. Like Odyssey, I kind of annoyed me because first off, it didn't have sprint, which is something I was kind of used to in a lot of Mario games. Is the fact that they had like a sprint or like something like that. And the other thing too is just like the clunkiness of the motion controls and how overcomplicated Mario's moveset was. Whereas Hat, you basically just get 2 jumps and a dive, which is nice. Keeps things simple, but it can also get really complex, which is again another reason why I really enjoyed Hat as a game because it's one of those games that's like it's really easy to pick up, but it's also incredibly difficult at like top and high level, which is great for me.
Another game, like the one of the only other games I've seen hit that is Celeste.
Yeah,
which
Celeste.
like the whole thing. I think the devs have even said this. You have three buttons. You can jump, you can dash, you can climb.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's the other game I was kind of looking at maybe speedrunning soon is Celeste. I mean, I'm learning it right now, but
I know one of the guys in the Champion Island community have started going at it. I think actually, speaking of which, he was the guy in my last episode, episode 10.
oh, nice.
I just saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I played Celeste so many times over just because I couldn't get enough of platforming. Then I actually went, you know what? I'm gonna actually finish the game and go to chapter 9, like finish chapter 9, and
Yeah, I haven't done
decide.
that. I've only beaten the game like the base story and whatever.
I beat the base story, struggled with 8, struggled with 9, and now I'm on 8B and I'm just staring at it like,
Yeah.
you're gonna be like this, huh?
I think that's like one of my problems with Celeste, I think. I don't know. It's just like collecting all the other stuff to unlock that eighth chapter, you know? It's
Yeah,
just kind of annoying to backtrack at least.
8A is the worst about that. I just looked up a guide and said, alright, how do I get the crystal hearts? Because I just want to
Yeah.
play 8.
I know I think a lot of games should have that where if they are gonna be like if there are like, you know, things to collect like a lot of them, they should have at least something that guides you there. Again, I'm gonna bring this back to Hat and talk about how I know like when I first 100%ed Hat, the relics are kind of important because they unlock purple rifts and whatever.
Oh, the
And so there's a
compass.
badge that you can get that actually points you in the direction of relics and rift tokens, so you can unlock them like easier,
True.
which is nice because like you're not just wandering around Mafia Town aimlessly for like an hour and a half just trying to get random yarn or something.
I started trying to finish all timepieces in Hat. Well, not like the run, but all getting all of them.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
And I am currently at 49. I don't
Nice.
I don't know how many purple rifts are left, but I do not have cheating the race simply because holy crap, yarn costs for a time stop.
You could just do it without time stop, you know, become a speedrunner.
Yeah, just become a speedrunner. It's easy. Like looking at casuals trying to do the running sport in Champion Island. Like, what do you just don't hit the crabs? Smile.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things with one of the biggest payoffs when you first learn to speedrun Hat is doing cheating the race without time stop Hat because it takes like hours to learn and is arguably the hardest trick learning out as a actually no, it definitely is the hardest trick when you first learn the run. And it but once you get it, there's no better feeling. Like it's so nice.
Yeah, it's like that kind of thing. Like someone's watching you and you're like, I gotta complete this real quick to unlock this collectible I want to show you, and then you just casually do it without breaking a sweat.
Mhm.
It becomes like so you become so used to it that it's just like what you do by default now since it's the better way to do it. It
Yeah.
is your
Yeah, because like I know I know nowadays like I don't use time stop hat pretty much at all. Like it's a time stop hat's probably like one of the most useless hats in the game once you learn to speedrun it, just because like actually it's just probably the most useless in general because you can do almost anything with it without it and whatever. But like yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like
Very it's very rarely used for like certain cycle manips and whatnot in like certain rifts, but that's usually in like ILs or like yeah, mostly just ILs, just because in an actual run, getting enough yarn to get time stop hat is just unviable.
I feel like if they did it like Breath of the Wild stasis, where you there's like say I remember a puzzle where there was a fast moving fan and you could only get through it by stasising. If they did that sort of thing with time stop, that
They
would
do
be
that once in Yakuza, but like only once.
oh crap, I
Which is
haven't
funny that they had that one instance throughout the entire game. Yeah, there's a relic in Yakuza in like Pink Paw, I think, that there's like a spinning fan blade and you need to use the time stop hat to get by it. But realistically, I could probably just lag clip there, to be honest.
and yeah, lag clips. I'm currently trying to learn the no major glitches route.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah,
I
that's the one that I started with.
I
Cause
grabbed
like
third place's run and I'm trying to just copy what they do.
yeah. Yeah, sunglasses. Yeah. Yeah, no major glitches is where I first started learning the game because I think one of the most controversial things about Hat is the use of like lag in its speedruns, and I want to give like a brief history on that. Basically, at first, early on in the game, it was like kind of discovered that if you like pause the game and like switch a setting, whether it be like a language setting or a graphic setting, the game will have to reload, but you'll still be in the same spot. So during this loading phase, if you like are just about to initiate the ledge grab, it'll clip you through the floor. And so runners started abusing it and whatnot. The only problem though is that because Hat's primarily a PC game, or at least primarily run on PC, it's not as consistent across machines. And so people voted on whether or not they should ban lag. Most people voted in favor of keeping it, but it was very slim. And then after that, username decided, you know what, this is cringe. So he invented an external program to lag the game pretty much at the press of a button, which like has its ups and downs. On the upsides, it's like it keeps it consistent across every machine, meaning it's a lot easier for people with lower NPCs to get into speedrunning the game. And then on the downside is that being able to lag the game at the press of a button makes like task level like strategies humanly possible, which is just like the game has gone absolutely crazy ever since it was developed.
I remember,
So yeah,
yeah, we had a
I like it
similar.
personally just because it adds like a lot of depth to the run that wouldn't otherwise be there. But yeah,
I can see that. We actually, in the Champion Island community, had a thing. We discovered our first ever cutscene skip. After you complete every sport, there's a cutscene where the main character is handed the main collectible. And we discovered our first ever cutscene skip by keeping the menu open somehow and warping out in that cutscene. And there was just this whole slew of people being like, "Oh, didn't we ban cutscene skips? Don't we have a glitched category for that?" And then the moderators are like, the glitch category says you can't cutscene skip with browser or save abuse, which is like reloading it's a browser game, so reloading the
yeah,
browser to put you back in the game instead of watching the cutscene. Or if you did it all the way to the end, reloaded the game, the next time you go through that cutscene will be just the end, so save abuse. And they're
yeah.
like, but this can be done no browser abuse on a fresh file, so it it's gonna have to be allowed, I guess. And
Yeah.
and they were like, well, no, you guys can vote on it. And I remember it being a very slim vote. I can probably find it right now, actually. Main square announcements, vote, and sorry, in announcements, vote. Yeah, okay. So we got the first sub 810 run with this, and
Yeah.
this is not as far apart as I remember it being. Uh, it's 9 to 32, but people probably came back to the old post and just said, "Oh, I want that," and clicked it even after it was already decided.
Yeah.
But like 9 down, 32 up, we ended up getting it. At first, it was very iffy, but then we discovered a much easier way to do it, and everyone was like, "Okay, that's mostly what I was worried about." But there were a few top runners who like, I don't like cutscene skips. I'm an old scrolls runner. I don't like change.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny because most of the people who like criticize the game's lag like are mostly casual players, which I think is always pretty funny because like I know at first like it wasn't even lag that was stopping me from learning any percent. It was just I was too lazy to down patch to 2.1 and I knew NMG could be run on current patch, so I just figured, you know what, I might as well just run NMG so I don't have to down
Dude,
patch.
literally same. I was like, so I'm looking at this guy that uses boop strats. Do I need to down patch for those? No, but they aren't
Yeah.
allowed in NMG, and I'm like, well, I'm an NMG runner now.
Yeah, because NMG is better on current patch, which is like the only category that uses
NMG's
it.
better. Just full stop.
But yeah, because that's originally what stopped me. Because again, you don't know if you're going to be dedicated to the game too much. You just kind of like want to just do a run for the sake of doing a run. And yeah, that's when I started. The crazy thing about like when I started though is it was like during online classes, so I just like be learning the route in the background as the teacher is talking, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, and you actually mentioned that in DMs. You really wanted to talk about balancing life and speedrunning, and improvement related blocks. So go right ahead.
Yeah. I think that's probably like the most difficult aspect in terms of speedrunning is like both of those, just because finding time to actually do it is pretty difficult for the most part. In my, I know like after summer of 2021, when I first learned it, I didn't have time again until like literally Christmas break. So that's when I started taking the game a little more seriously. But like, it's really difficult. I know there's a couple things that have helped me. First things first, I know with like all my classes and whatever, is just deciding like what is really genuinely important and finding a good time to do it. I know one of the things that I'd do almost is I'd kind of review like in my head what I learned that day on like the bus ride home or something, just because that way it sits a little easier. And the other thing too is like if you already have a good enough understanding, is literally you just don't need to improve it further, you know? Obviously
Yeah.
that's gonna that's gonna be pretty controversial. People have varying
Oh, I
understanding,
fully
varying like
agree.
definitions of a good understanding. But like I know for me, I've always been pretty good at math, so I haven't had to work at it as hard. So if I can like go into like a lecture and then just like sit there and be like, yeah, I already get this. The other thing too is actually doing your homework while the teacher's talking. I'm not even kidding, but that genuinely helps a lot.
Let's
Like
go. I
that's one of the biggest ones for me was I would just like during the lecture, I'd literally just be doing my homework while she was talking
I don't
because
know.
like,
I don't
yeah,
know if this was like my old school or America or anything, but like how we would do it is just you're taught this thing. You're taught how to do you're taught of the existence of this thing. You're taught how to do it, and then you spend the rest of the time blocked off for that
yeah,
lesson.
that's
Practice, practice,
exactly,
practice.
yeah, that's exactly what we do. Except that's what I do is I just usually just jump ahead and just do the work as she's directing because first off it gives me like a better understanding of the concept that she's teaching just by doing it myself. And then the other thing too is that it also makes it faster. You know, got to optimize. It's like
We're optimal. We're speedrunning IRL.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's literally just like I guess it's unironically a good comparison to make because like it's almost like playing the game during a cutscene, you know. I know in Hat we have like a thing called boop scope where during the cutscene for opening a new door or whatever, you can just move during it. And so that's basically what it is I'm just doing it while she's talking,
Also, like
you know.
crafting hats during beginning
Yeah.
cutscenes.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, that's one of the most useful things for me. And again, it's like I know with math, it's just like it came pretty natural to me for the most part, so I didn't have to work at it too hard. Whereas like a different subject like English, I just suffer at. And with English in particular, I know that I used audiobooks mostly instead of actually reading because like first off, I really struggle with sitting still when actually reading. And then second off, I can run shipshape in the background as the audiobook is playing, which is a massive like benefit.
Oh man, I hate ship. I despise ship shape. I turned on assist mode just so I could get past it to the chapter that was the act that was actually
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Everybody hates shipshape casually, and like obviously shipshape is probably the most controversial like level in the game, but it has like the most deep IL run out of any level in the game, undoubtedly.
I can
There's
imagine.
literally there's literally a 40-page document on just strategies for that level just because it's like all RNG based. You have to pick up like 18 tasks and whatever. Most of it comes down to luck, but I like to view it more like a mini game than a speed run, you know? Like
How
just try completing it as fast as possible rather than always trying to play for PB because realistically, you cannot PB every run in chip shape. It's like physically impossible.
what even is the win criteria? I just kept going until it said, "All right, you can stop now."
Yeah, so it's 18 tasks that you have to deliver. I don't well, originally it was like it's pretty high. It was something ridiculous like 30 at first. But I know in the latest in like ever since Yakuza it's been at 18. So yeah.
Yep. All right, that sounds pretty good. Thank goodness.
Yeah, Shipshape's like one of my more like I don't know, one of my favorite runs to do. It's my comfort run just because
Comfort.
like it's like decently short and sweet, but it's also a lot of fun. Like
Never thought
yeah.
I'd heard comfort. Never thought I'd hear comfort and ship shape in the
Oh,
same
oh,
sentence.
trust me. Talk to any other shipshape runner and they'd agree.
Any
Cuz
other
yeah.
ship shape runner? What about any other runner?
Yeah, cuz like most like people who don't run shipshape hate it, and I was in the same boat where I was like, "Oh my god, how do you guys actually run shipshape?" And then I played a modded level called Turing Castle, which is basically just like a modded ship shape, but it's made a lot simpler, and I really enjoyed it. So then I figured, hey, you know what? Why don't I learn actual ship shape? And then I did, and then I got like fifth in the world on just stupid luck.
And speaking of the actual like speed runs and runs, you mentioned you were a hybrid runner, like keyboard and mouse. We do have hybrid categories over here because controller, not keyboard and mouse, controller and keyboard mouse. But controller
Yeah,
over here is, well, more precise movement, better for rolling around the overworld.
yeah.
How is it a difference over there? And
Okay. So yeah, basically, obviously, both of them have their benefits, but for the most part, keyboard's technically considered to be better. Not even just because of its like inherently, like keyboard naturally, its benefits are just having a better camera, whereas a controller obviously gets more precise movement with different angles and whatnot. But like where the difference really comes in is with lag strats, because pretty much for some reason on Windows, if you lag the game, you can buffer inputs with lag on keyboard, but you can't on controller, meaning that like certain strategies were believed to be impossible on controller unless you like literally rebind to have keyboard keys on your controller. It's complicated, but like yeah.
that's
And
wacky.
so lots of runners just opt to stay with one or the other. Like I know controller runners obviously like to complain about like how like, oh, I'll never learn like this version of Golden Vault because keyboard or whatever.
I'll never hold down my right click button to mash text.
Yeah, yeah, but obviously, like, I think as like the closest thing Hat has to a hybrid runner, I think I run like 2/3 on keyboard, 1/3 on controller. Like, I think that's what it is, but yeah, it's like it's weird because I can do pretty much anything I can on keyboard on controller, and I don't like the argument that keyboard is just inherently better because realistically, there are other controller runners who've learned pretty much everything. I know Sunglasses is primarily a controller runner. Same thing with Kaz. Like they both run just about everything on controller. So it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I personally prefer a controller just because it's when I first picked up the game, I picked up controller because I was like, this looks like
Yeah.
this is a 3D platformer. Those are usually
Also,
controller
yeah, I should
games.
mention the default controls for both, like controller and keyboard, are absolutely abysmal for speedrunning. So you're gonna have to rebind both of them if you're gonna
Ha
hybrid
ha ha.
run, which
What?
is
Out of
like
curiosity, what all is abysmal? It seems like a pretty good layout to me.
well on controller, well, I mean on keyboard, just having controller dive is just like bad, just because that way you can't hold sprint and dive at the same time, so you might lose frames here and there, which not a huge deal, but also like having control dive, like I don't know. Personally, I have pretty big hands, so that just literally like it's so painful for me to reach down to control every time to dive. And then I know for a controller, obviously the camera isn't great, so it's recommended you go into like your settings and turn on like I believe top down camera, like yeah, top down
What?
camera if you select none instead of controller only. That way your controller can look up and down. The other thing too is obviously you'd have to rebind a text mash button onto controller and whatnot, just because of that.
Or give yourself carpal tunnel.
Yeah, or give yourself carpal tunnel.
Look, there's some weird people.
Personally, I'd rather macro through text.
There's some weird people here in the Google community. One of the Google Doodle creators made a little game jam game where there's a toaster. You click it, it puts out bread, and it doesn't have a limit to how much bread. So there became a
Oh,
speed
so
run
there's a
of
speed run.
clicking it to fill the entire screen with bread.
That's
Having
based.
done that screen speed run, I don't have carpal tunnel, but I'm sure like if anyone ever decided to grind that run, they would.
Oh, definitely. But I'd probably do it, honestly.
Yeah, it's the
I've never minded like the technical side of like games or whatever, like doing like movement that's strenuous on the
click
hands, if that makes
toaster for an
sense.
hour.
I think that's one of the benefits that Hat has though, is like it, even though it's a really technical and precise game, none of the movements really like absolutely destroy your hands because there's no reason to. Like a lot of it's pretty ergonomic, which is nice. So, you know,
Yeah.
most runners don't experience frequent hand pains unlike other communities.
Something I never got was like you can hold down right click to mash. If you go into the lines of code and add an extra line, then it
Yeah.
works. crazy glitch.
Yeah.
We didn't
I don't
edit
know.
anything.
I mean, rebinds. I mean, yeah, the biggest reason that was legalized is again just hardware inconsistencies. Because I'm pretty sure GameCube controllers technically could mash the fastest out of all of them for some weird hardware reason. Don't know. So
It's
people just
GameCube
decided, hey, it'd
time.
just be better to legalize a text mash macro so that way people aren't put at an unfair advantage to have like a niche like 20-year-old controller, you know?
Although recently Nintendo did re-release GameCube and N64. Well, at least the N64 controller, maybe the GameCube.
Oh wait, did they re-release that?
I
I don't know.
I
I
know
don't
for
follow Nintendo that much anymore,
I
but
know for a fact they re-released an N64 controller with actual built-in Switch compatibility instead of a plug everything into everything and it might just work.
yeah. I know they were like re-release GameCube controllers like every time like a new Smash title is released, but like
Oh yeah.
I know most of them just go out of stock almost instantly and you're never getting one.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because Smash Ultimate has the Smash Ultimate's
Yeah, the
three things: Pro Controller, Joy-Con,
never
GameCube
Joy-Con.
controller.
Never, no, only
I
two, only two. Pro controller and GameCube. Never Joy-Con.
I
Never.
play Joy-Con in Smash.
Oh my god.
Look,
Never,
man.
never Joy-Con. Never a Joy-Con unless you're like traveling. But like that's the only time where I'd say it's like actually a good solution.
Again, I just lay around and play on in handheld mode, so I just have gotten used to Joy-Con. I do
That's
indeed use
fair.
Smash Stick. Ridicule
Oh my
me.
god. Well, at least does your main at least benefit from Smash Stick or
No,
like?
I'm a Mithra.
Oh my god. You would
Like,
benefit so much from Tilt Stick though.
well, tilt stick is so hard to grab. Like, it's so hard to stick on Joy-Con because instead of it being more centralized to be actually fun to hold, it's like a
Yeah.
square and in the corner. So I just got used to the timing on regular tilt attacks and kept it a smash
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah, just claw grip, you know.
Just yeah.
Just
Uh,
claw grip a Joy-Con.
Well, I mean, Zelda speedrunners looking like, maybe I will claw grip the Joy-Con for whistle sprinting.
Yeah. I know like in terms of hat, like claw grip benefits quite a bit. I know I usually claw grip my right hand for certain actions, but it's not like super necessary to know how to. I know, like I said, a lot of the other controller runners don't claw grip, but I have more of a but I think like one of the important things to do is to mention is that played melee like semi competitively. Like I never entered tournaments, but always play like competitive rule set with friends and whatever. And so I just kind of got used to claw gripping because of that.
I don't really need to claw grip as much because I have Hitchhiker's Thumb, where your thumb can bend back
Oh, I can
unreasonably
do that
far.
too. Yeah,
I never saw a reason for claw grip. Like, I could just kind of, like
that's fair.
whistle sprinting in Breath of the Wild, for example. I just put my finger, push up, like, put my whole finger underneath the joystick, push up the joystick, and just mash, just the other buttons. And I use the camera to adjust which way I'm going.
Yeah. No, I know for me, like on a GameCube controller, claw grip is just really nice just because of the way the Y button's positioned. So, you know,
Yes.
like it's like the Y button is like literally perfect for me to just rest my finger on like that. But yeah. So then I translate that over to other controllers. Like I don't claw grip as much on Pro controller because that's what again, that's the controller I mainly use to run hat. But like it's also just a little ergonomic enough to the point where I don't need it. Like it's not necessary, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I see that. And circling back to Hat, you just mentioned it, but still, uh, I've saved what I think is gonna be the best for last. Uh, you told me that you had an experience with all timepieces. I really
Yeah.
want to hear about this.
Okay, so basically, I don't remember how this started, but I think it was in the Hat Discord. I'm pretty sure Thog, who's another primarily any percent runner, was talking about why he doesn't like ATP base, and it was literally just like one level, and everybody's like, "Bro, just run it." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do a run. Screw it," because like I don't know. I don't do ATP more so just because I'm lazy and can't be bothered to learn the levels, and also just hate sitting down consistently for that long of a time. You
Yeah,
know?
I can see that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because any percent, like, you can reset and you're just like, oh, I just reset, whatever. It's like a half an hour run compared to like an hour and a bit, you know?
I
And
can.
so I remember just doing like just blind. My first like ever like no well, practice run, I was like 30 pawns short of a certain door a certain relic I needed to craft, so I was just screwed and had to reset that run, and that was a disaster. My second run was even worse. I know I just kept dying in basement. I know basement I just took 10 minutes to do, which was ridiculous,
Which
but just
one's
because I literally just got frustrated and reset after
which
like
one's base?
midway through the grooves fight, so I was just like whatever.
Oh, that's basement. That's okay.
Yeah. And then I also died like 7 times on Twilight Bell, which well not exactly, but you know what I mean, like a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Because that's there's a meme in the community called Sunglasses Twilight Bell because during the any percent ATP, well not any percent during the ATP All DLC tournament, Sunglasses just like had one of the most ridiculous like mess ups on Twilight Bell ever known to man, and we caught it live on stream, which was great. So I basically just had a Sunglasses Twilight Bell, and I was like, and beforehand I was literally just like thinking to myself, oh yeah, that would never be me, and then it just happened, and I was like, oh great.
Ha ha
The other
ha!
thing too,
Twilight Bell.
yeah. I know I went for a third run, but then I just like I don't know. I just physically couldn't bring myself to sit down to that long and do it. So I've decided I am no longer an ATP runner.
Oh
It
yeah.
is yeah. I think that's the other thing too with long categories is that like if you learn them too late, like I've like my ATP experience was literally just doing an any percent, getting like any percent levels, I get a really good IL in, and then ATP levels I just like mess up on for hours at a time. But yeah,
I can see
because
that.
that's the thing too is learning long categories after you gotten so used to one is just really hard, and I don't think I can be bothered to like actually dedicate myself to.
Over at Champion Island, we have our RC7 100%, RC7 being the most recent version, and it is uh infamous to say the least because of one specific sport. The archery hard version is one of the hardest things in the game, I think. I have not completed it to this day. It is like the opponent, like regular archery, shoot targets, get points. You and your opponent gets slightly more points than you for targets, but they're pretty slow. Their AI is pretty bad. It's easy. Archery 2, however, they get much more points. They get points from the things that block your arrows. They go the speed of sound. Um, and it's just overall the same guy, but just buffed.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
nightmare. If I can pull up speedrun.com real quick, I want to check. I think the current time rests at around half an hour for that category.
Oh my god.
Um,
That's almost an entire hat run. But
game.
yeah, I think that's the other thing too is that like I just physically can't sit still for that long, like an hour and a half, without my body just saying, "Oh, I need to like do something," or I'm like starving, or like I need a drink or something. So I don't know. Long
Okay,
categories are, I don't get how people who do like 5 hour speed runs do it. Like I seriously just I will never be able to understand
there's
that.
also like 28 side quests in Champion Island that are part of the 100%. But I'm looking at it right now. Warps Allowed RC7 has only four runs submitted to the board. And the first one is 32 minutes. Last one is 50 minutes.
Yeah. I should mention the most daunting category in hat called 110%. There are literally only 3 runs of it on a leaderboard, and that's because it's just like you 100% the game, which already takes a long time, but then you have to beat every single death wish. And for anyone who doesn't know, death wishes are basically the equivalent of like Kaizo challenges. And not only do you have to do every death wish, but you have to do all the bonus stamps as well, meaning you have to pretty much do some of the most absolutely ridiculously difficult tricks in the entire game
Kill this
just to
specific
beat it. And
enemy
then
in
it's
this
also like
specific level.
a 4 hour run. There's only like one active runner who still plays it, and that's Enhu. I think like at the moment he's trying to derust it, which like that's just crazy. Like I like all stamps as a category. Like it's fun to do death wishes and whatever, but like I'd never do a run of it just because like it takes so long and that has to be so draining just because of the difficulty.
All stamps, I've got like 2 stamps on my main file.
I have gotten all stamps, so
Go.
yeah, I don't know.
I
The speedrun strats unironically are genuinely easier than doing it casually at least. Or maybe I've just gotten a lot better, but I don't know.
I
On the Because
saw
like on one hand the boss fights are just an absolute nightmare, and then on the other hand all the main levels are made quite a bit easier just because of that.
I saw a artist who finally completed Death Wish, and they drew up a little bit of art, which was Hat Kid wearing a shirt saying, "I completed all of Death Wish, and all I got was this stupid shirt."
That's true. That's what it really feels like, though. Like, especially when Snatcher, like, what? You expected an award? Oh my God. You're like so entitled and whatever.
How
Like,
dare
literally
you?
just, yeah, how dare you? The audacity, you know?
I
But
tried to murder you multiple times, and you want a reward for surviving my murder attempts?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I don't know. They're like fun for speedruns. Other than
Yeah,
that, I would never touch them again.
I can totally see it because it's the whole like super fast. Oh goodness, have to focus on this thing.
Yeah. At least the levels are. I think the boss fights are dumb, but
And it looks like we've gone over everything on my list. But as tradition demands, if you've seen any past episode of this podcast, I ask every guest, what is your opinion on pineapple pizza?
I love pineapple on pizza.
Let's
I'm sorry.
go!
Yeah, I say I'm sorry preemptively because I know everybody I say that to
Oh
immediately
my
just
gosh,
starts like harassing me for it.
I think I've literally had more guests on here who like pineapple pizza than those who dislike it, and it's the best
Nice,
thing I've seen.
nice. Let's
Let's
go.
go! Thank you so
No,
much.
hang on. Before we go, I really want to mention that it's really funny because I remember talking about it like really like everybody in my friend group was like, "Oh my God, I hate pineapple pizza," and then like me and another girl were like, "Oh yeah, yeah, like pineapple pizza, totally gross," like really sarcastically and whatever. And that was really fun because of it. Somehow we ended up dating. I don't know. I figured I'd just throw that out there. Funny pineapple on pizza story.
Pineapple. Yeah, before we dip, time for I'll put are there any links you want in the description? Like plug in yourself.
Yeah. I probably would like to link my Twitch because I'm live there fairly often, which should be
Twitch.tv.
twitch.tv/isolation,
Like
spelled
with
with a
the
one,
one.
however. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then also obviously my YouTube channel. I don't know the hot link for that obviously, but
I
you can
can
find it.
snag that
You can literally just
afterwards.
like search up me and then you'll find it. Like, but
Alright.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thanks so much for coming on. You responded like immediately after I posted a request in the Boop Troop.
Oh yeah, no
Um,
worries. It's fun.
yeah, thanks a lot, and hopefully we get to see more hat speedrunners later on in this.
Yeah. I
Yep,
mean, yeah, hopefully. That's a great game. Play
that's
it.
cool. I'm sure that having diversity in speedruns and not just being Google speedruns, that'll be a super good one.
Yeah.
Thanks again for coming on, and
Yeah, no worries.
see ya.
See ya.
See you audience as well. Uh,